Everything in the background is kind of breaking up.
So I can share this from me, wasn't it? That's what I want to do. So I can share this from me. So we can't watch the video at the same time.
Okay, here's a copy of some of the questions. This will be like a guiding point if you can write on the back. There's the back.
You can see yourself.
Oh, it's on delay. I just realized that. I'm like, why is it not? I'm doing this, but the video's not doing this.
Y'all good?
Good evening. Welcome to IMHC's Real Talk Radio. My name is Danielle Pickens, and I am a Public Policy Associate with the Indiana Minority Health Coalition, and I have joining me Ms. Erica Pedroza, who's also a Public Policy Associate. Today we have special guest, Mr. Karl Nichols, the Executive Director of Community Wellness Partners in South Bend, Indiana, and via phone we have Ms. Kelli Brien, the Maternal Child Health Coordinator at Community Wellness Partners in South Bend, Indiana.
How you doing?
Hi. Thank you for joining us today.
No problem.
Kelly, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Hello.
All right. So today we'll be discussing for you guys doulas and their roles in the community. And Kelly, we have quite a few listeners today that may not know what the role of a doula is exactly. Would you be okay with sharing with us some of the things that you do as a doula?
Definitely. Well, first of all, the word doula is Greek, and it means a woman who serves. And what a doula does is basically educate and coach and advocate for moms and their partners. So a lot of times when, especially first-time moms are pregnant and they're trying to navigate the healthcare system, there's a lot of words and procedures that they don't understand. And the doula is there to really kind of navigate that and help to make everybody understand what's going on and kind of code switch and really translate for parents and for providers so that everybody's got that good communication going.
Okay, so just so we know, is it doula, can anybody be a doula, or is it something that people have to become certified in?
It's definitely better for people to be certified. And the reason I say that is because a lot of times when you say doula, people do get confused sometimes with midwives, or we get confused sometimes with nurses or our role. A doula is certified by an organization, and we chose Doula International because they are the leading evidence-based organization to certify doulas. So there's a standard of care, and there's ethics behind it, and there's definitely a governing body. So it's very important to be certified.
All right, well, piggybacking off of what Erica just asked you, how do you go about being certified to become a doula?
So there are trainings that you go to in person, and they're very intense, and they teach you things about pregnancy, about childbirth, labor, and delivery, a lot of the methods that OBGYNs use during labor and delivery so that you understand what's happening in the hospital. They also give you information about breastfeeding and postpartum care and how to see the signs of postpartum depression. So you go through these really intense days, these seminars for training, and afterwards you purchase a packet that gives you lots of information to fill out. And so you are actually going to be in the field at this point afterwards, working with moms, working with families, and recording that and sending that into the organization for them to certify you.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit more about your programs. So you're both with Community Wellness Partners, and from my understanding, it's the Speak Life initiative, that's the doula program that you offer. Karl, if you don't mind, can you start by telling us a little bit about the doula program itself and how it got started?
I think when we decided that we wanted to do something innovative that hasn't been done before, we took a look at infant mortality. When you think about infant mortality, it's such a huge issue that's a dynamic that it's hard to attack every aspect of it. And so trying to create a way that we could look at how do we address this and be able to create impact. So I look at infant mortality like an iceberg. So you see the iceberg, and that's infant mortality. But the important part is to see what are the underlying causes. So, you know, as an iceberg goes in the water, it gets bigger, bigger, and bigger.
Yeah.
And so we ask ourselves that, why here? Why in South Bend? Why in Northern Indiana? Why in Indiana as a whole are the disparity between Caucasian moms and African American moms so wide? So African American babies died at 2.5% higher clip than their white counterparts. So we looked at what are the things that we can do as a group to tackle that. So then we looked at all these factors. We looked at low income, low education levels. And then we realized, though, that the research shows us that just being an African American woman will create that disparity.
Right.
Even if there's an African American woman that makes $100,000 a year or one that makes $1,000 a year, you're going to have that same disparity level. And so looking at that, we looked at stress. The stress of whether it's institutionalized racism, access to care. We looked at those stressors. And many of the cases we saw in South Bend were cases where a mom didn't have anyone to reach out to in those times of stress.
Like no support.
Right, and negative things happen with those babies. And in creating this, we wanted to design a model where you mix a community health worker and you co-train them as a community health worker and a doula. So not only can they address that mom and that pregnancy, but they can address other issues in the household as well. So whether it be resume writing, job search, attending doctor's appointments with the mom, anything that could cause undue stress, that's what they assist with. And the doulas are available any hour of the night. They have cell phone contact, text message contact, that if there's a mom freaking out about anything, they can reach out to their doula.
Okay. That sounds like an awesome support. Because I'm sure you get a lot of, whenever there's programs specifically offered to a certain race or ethnicity, you get a lot of questions like, why the focus on this particular group? Like, don't all pregnant women deserve this type of service? So, and then I'm sure you respond to that with explaining the disparities and the need for...
And we definitely hear those comments that, well, infant mortality is bad in every race.
Right.
But if we look at, if the overarching goal is to delete or decline the infant mortality rate in Indiana, we feel that if we decrease that gap in that disparity, you're going to decrease the overall infant mortality rate.
Absolutely. Doing a fraction of a year,
Right.
that's the whole thing.
Exactly.
Well, thanks for that explanation.
Did you want to add anything to that, Kelly?
No, not right now.
Okay, so moving on. You've kind of touched on this a little bit, but how do you feel that access to someone like a doula can improve the childbirth and postpartum stages of motherhood? Going a little bit more specifically, so I don't know if Kelly, you would like to answer that as far as like the specific services that kind of go on day by day. I don't know.
Well, not just the specific services that we offer. We do offer services that touch on each point of a mom's life. Even the pregnancy part, just, okay, I'm a first-time mom, I'm afraid, there's that fear there. Sometimes there's shame. She may go to the doctor. The doctor's like, okay, well, you're this age, you shouldn't be having this child. This is not safe for you. You're over 35. Or you're too young, you shouldn't be having this baby. You're a single mom. So there's stress right there. So having someone to speak with about that and kind of debrief about her own personal story and struggle is stress relieving. We all know that when you're speaking with another woman and she can relate to you, it helps you. It helps you look at things a different way, or at least know that there's somebody who understands you. But then not only that, being able to say things that happen in the birth room, you get stressed out, you're scared, you're afraid, and you're in a lot of pain. And your doula knows that she's responding to this pain, but she's also responding to the things that are going on in her mind. Your doula knows that, the night before you were stressed out because your other kids were acting up. She may understand that the relationship between yourself and the father of the baby is strained. So she can see those other stress factors in your life, and she can speak to that, or at least understand where you're coming from, and be that buffer between the mom and the medical community community and kind of help things to go a lot more smoothly. So if she's having some issues during birth, she can look into the doula's eyes and say, I'm not okay with this. And the doula can say, what is that you need right now?
Wow.
Let's try this. Remember, we discussed this. So what if we try this? What if we try this massage? What if we take a walk? Just offer those different comfort techniques to really speak to what it is mom needs in the moment, because the medical community is not really going to be that close to her. They're not going to have that knowledge, and that knowledge actually creates the kind of atmosphere that you need in order to have a healthy birth.
Absolutely. So there seems to be a large focus on the mental health of the mom here, and then how
Absolutely.
Okay, very neat. I can't even imagine going through this by yourself. I'm not a mom, but if I am going to be a mom soon, I would
know that
exactly.
that
I'd love
type of
that
support is out there. Yeah,
absolutely.
Kelly, can I ask you what personally made you want to become a doula?
Personally, I became a doula because my son, well, actually, I became pregnant at 18 years of age.
Okay.
I crossed the stage pregnant, and there was shame there. There was a lot of fear there. And by the time I got to the birth room, I was petrified. And I had gone to all of my prenatal appointments. I had read 5 books, and I had every pamphlet I was ever given. I devoured this information, and yet I was there present at the birth, but I was so separated from everything that happened to me. And birth should never happen to anyone. You should participate in it, obviously. My son it took 24 and a half hours for him to be born, and when he was born, he was blue. And he spent a week in the NICU, and I'm still trying to figure out what happened. I still wonder what went wrong, and he's 20 years old. My questions were never answered.
Wow.
And so then with my second birth, it was shorter because I felt empowered, and I knew kind of the things that could go wrong, and I knew that I didn't want to let things just happen to me. So it was a shorter labor, and I did more for myself as far as advocating. But then with my third labor, I was approached by a doula who was in training. And she asked me if she could assist me. And I told her, if you tell me what it is you're going to do, if you tell me what a doula is, maybe we could do this. And she did. And it was an hour-long labor. We played games. We listened to music. We did crossword puzzles. I had no medicine, and I thought there was medicine in my IV. And a few months later, she called me and said, I think that you might be a good candidate to be a doula. And I said, I think you're right. And that's kind of where it started.
Wow.
That's an awesome story. It is.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. So wondering, in the process of becoming a doula, is there a focus on cultural competency? Because these doulas are going into individuals' homes and they need to reach them where they're at. So is there any focus on that?
Recently, there has been an increase in that focus.
Okay.
Previously, when I became a doula, this was something that was not popular at all in the African American community where I'm from.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know what a doula was. I had no clue. And looking back, I don't know where I would have gone to ask or find out. And so now that there are more birth workers, more doulas of color, coming out of the woodworks, now that we are seeing these different mortality rates, now there is definitely much more of a push to have culturally relevant care. So in just in these last few months, maybe the last 2 years, it's been on an increase, but there's definitely a great need for more. And that's where we come in.
And I think in Indiana, even being disproportionate in their hiring practices, hospitals and community health centers and things like that, you don't see a lot of certified lactation specialists who are African American. You don't see midwives who are African American. You don't see black nurses in many of the birthing units. You can Google childbirth and look at images, and the first 60 pictures aren't going to be white nurses or white doctors, or they won't be minority doctors helping with the birth or nurses. Mm-hmm. And so visually, birth looks very white, and so it's been our goal is to promote this culturally relevant birthing experience. So when you go into the hospital, I need to see a doctor that looks like me. I need to see a nurse that looks like me. I want to see my doula that looks like me. I want to see a midwife that looks like me. I want the lady who comes and talks to me about breastfeeding to look like me. And with these doulas, the way we're trying to create this program to grow, you have that lactation consultant is that doula. That nutrition person is that doula. That first visit after the doctor, after your birth, is that doula. So you build that rapport, and it's a culturally relevant experience.
Awesome. So, you know, I know you guys are located in South Bend, and from my understanding, there's a relatively large Spanish-speaking population in South Bend and its surrounding communities. Are there Spanish-speaking doulas on hand to help those families?
Yes, ma'am. We're actually in 12 different counties in the state right now.
Oh, wow.
So we're in LaPorte County, St. Joe, Elkhart, and Marshall.
Okay.
And then we just, in this past January, expanded to 8 more counties. So we're in
Wow.
Cass County, Miami County, Newton, Jasper, White, all these counties. So we do have a bilingual doula.
Okay.
And we're looking to bring on more.
Yeah.
Because this birthing workforce should develop into like this army of these workforce, so we can produce them and move them into hospitals, move them into community mental health centers, move them into FQACs, move them into every realm of medical that we can find to move this growing group into.
Awesome. So you had mentioned about how the lactation consultants oftentimes is the doula. So I'd like to talk a little bit about the breastfeeding portion of it. How do lactation consultants differ from doulas, just to give some sort of context to our listeners?
So a lactation consultant is somebody who is trained and certified specifically for breastfeeding, and a doula is trained and certified specifically for all things birth, which includes a portion of breastfeeding, but it's not necessarily her specialty. But what we find in the community of doulas, if I can say it that way, is that it's so much better to have an expertise in breastfeeding, because a lot of times that's one of the biggest obstacles that moms face. So generally, if you find a doula, she has taken extra courses for breastfeeding, and there's something else that she's building into her repertoire. That's something else that's in her bag of doula tricks as well.
Yeah.
And you have to look at when you're in the hospital, you're giving birth. So though all births are different, they're all traumatic. You went through something very traumatic to your body. And then less than 24 hours, they're coming in saying, here's how you breastfeed in like a 30-minute session, and then they're gone. With the doula who's with you long term, if you don't remember that 30-minute engagement at the hospital with that person that came in and said, here, do this. And if it doesn't work, try this. They can give you that refresher information. And one of the barriers to this workforce is the cost. And we look at opportunities and access to education. The cost to become a doula, if you include the travel to Michigan, the class and everything, is about $2,500 to $3,000 per doula. That's just for the basic certification. If you look at lactation consultant, lactation specialist, these costs, the trainings aren't close. They're not cheap. And so you look at what aspiring woman has resources to some of this education.
Yeah.
And so when you do find one, hospitals, larger hospital systems will snatch them up and move them to the community. If you look at Hamilton County, they have 3 or 4 African American lactation consultants, but that's not the community they're needed in. But now the hospital's able to check off a box that we have this, and they pat themselves on the back. But the hospitals who truly need and serve the population don't have them, and they're not willing. I won't say they don't have the funds. They are not willing to pay for that educational advancement.
I have to piggyback off what Karl said, because that's so important. When I began this journey, it was so difficult for me to break into this, because not only the cost, but the other factors that play a role. I mean, transportation just itself, for our moms locally, can be an issue. But then imagine trying to go so far as, another state and stay for so long when you have kids, you have bills. You may or may not have enough room for the kids you have, and you're worried about how I'm going to take care of all these different things, and I want to move up, and I want to have this profession, but I've got all these barriers. But then as far as the breastfeeding part is concerned, for our participants, we deal with women who have issues like they've gone through abuse, they've had some kind of trauma to them sexually, so breastfeeding is just something else where she feels like somebody else is requiring something of my body and I'm not comfortable with it. And a doula will understand and know that and have that relationship, being able to speak to that situation and walk her through it and hold her hand, so that maybe she might breastfeed for 6 or 7 months, where she might have tried for a day or two, and then she had those ghosts come up in her mind and not be able to deal with that and just quit. So being able to have that longer duration of breastfeeding, even if she doesn't finish an entire year, that support is so important. It can make a huge difference in the health of the baby and the mental health of the mom. So having access to these trainings is huge for the entire community.
Yeah.
About how long do the trainings take?
Well, it depends on which one. There are different certifications and they require different training. So a certified lactation specialist, you can take that class and it's about a week long.
Okay.
And the tests can be really daunting, 700 to 800 questions depending on which certifying body you go through. And, if you fail, you have to retake the test, repay, and go back to another training center to take it. So it's intense. It's intense, and it can be very stressful, especially if access to it is limited. So it can be daunting, definitely.
I'm glad we're glad we're talking about breastfeeding. I really like this topic. I recently read that formula-fed babies are 3.5 times more likely to experience sudden infant death syndrome. So I'm just very intrigued by what's happening in our state, and honestly, I think it's very unfortunate that there's not more Black lactation consultants, Black doulas in the communities that need them the most. So we've recently talked about how the baby-friendly hospitals oftentimes are not located in Black communities, and also do not have Black lactation consultants on site. So it's really unfortunate that that's the case. So hopefully with increased exposure to these issues, little by little we'll continue to resolve this.
I think part of it too speaks to the fact that there's stigma sometimes in the not sometimes, but there's a stigma in the Black community. Some people can say that it's nasty, or they don't feel as though their breasts are for breastfeeding. Sometimes we have this over-sexualized view of Black women's bodies, and it becomes an issue that breastfeeding is just nasty. And normalizing it in our community is so important, and understanding that, yes, we do struggle with these issues. There's a higher rate of sexual abuse in the Black community, especially for the Black woman. So looking at that and having these conversations and speaking with these moms personally one-on-one about what our situation is can really help with that. And that's where a lot of the behavioral health comes in. So it's a big circle. We're looking at the whole woman here.
Absolutely.
One more question for you, or another question for you, Kelly. When you just mentioned that, like Erica said, that the mental health aspect of the mom is really important. Is there any doula, or do you know of a doula that gets training in like some type of psychological or social or mental health, some type of mental health training, like just to be an expert in it?
There's no specialized mental health training specifically for doulas that is actually certifying, but there are classes and trainings that are offered. It's just not something that is within the scope of a doula to have that kind of certification, because then she's over into like in the MSW field.
Okay.
But it's more kind of a laywoman who is offering this, so that we're not stepping out of liability and all those different issues. But being able to have that understanding in those trainings and not say we're a clinician at all kind of helps us stay in that relationship mode.
Okay.
And I think the most important training that a doula can behavioral health is how to recognize issues. And the more they build that rapport with the mom, the more they can recognize, or they know, hey, I see your prescription bottles not refilled. What's going on with that? Have you called your psychiatrist? Where's that relationship? And so they build that rapport where they feel comfortable asking those questions. So they say, okay, I see you kind of haven't come out your house this week. What's up? You haven't cleaned up this month. What's going on? And so they can have that rapport to kind of push them to the next step.
Okay.
Well, then let's talk about a little bit more about the relationship between the doula and the mother. What is the process to get a doula? Let's say I got pregnant and wanted a doula. Do I pick which doula I want, or how does the program work? Are they assigned?
So for our program, for our purposes, Once you found out about the program or you've gotten a referral or heard about us, you can contact us multiple ways. We like to try to make it as accessible as absolutely possible. So when someone comes into the program, we pair them with who is going to be a good fit by personality, by need and specialty. So each of our doulas kind of has their own niche. Some specialize in massage, some specialize in childbirth education, some specialize in breastfeeding. We all have those aspects, but some have those specialties. So really depending on what the mom's needs are is how we assess who's going to be together. But overall, you choose your own doula. You can actually go to Doula.org and look up different doulas for your area or for your state. And it's really, and that's kind of how it's chosen. It's really a relational thing. It's just kind of a gut feeling. This is a woman that I can trust. I feel like I can understand her. Sometimes you just have to click, and there's really no other way to put it. You just have to have that understanding.
But I want to say, with our program, all of our services are at no cost to the moms.
Wow.
And if you were to, as someone who was not in this program, to search out a doula, what is it, like 3,500 some women charge just for the birth? That's not for the time leading up to the birth and for that year after birth. That's just
3,500.
Yes, that's just
Wow.
that's just to be there
Yes.
for the birth.
Wow.
So you look at what we provide and what we, for whatever point in time they come into the program, and include all of the multiple touch points, whether it's at the doctor's appointments with them, it's at, it's just at their home, at the store, wherever that touch point is. Then that time in the birth room, and then that year postpartum, that's a lot of contact.
Yes, absolutely.
And so they are, when I first heard of what a doula was, I really thought this was like a rich white woman thing that, you pay somebody to help you do what you're supposed to do by yourself. That was my mindset. And to see what we offer, this is really a wealth of knowledge that they learn. And looking at it, by providing this education during this pregnancy, you already are going into your next pregnancy 5,000 steps ahead of the game. Because now you've been through this, and you can come back to the program, but you've been coached the first one, and so that gives a better opportunity for the next child to survive as well.
Do you all know of any other similar programs offered in other cities? I know you've expanded to, you said 12 counties, but is there any other similar program out there that you know about?
I don't know, we're one of a kind. So I would say that in Indiana, Nurse Family Partnership has, I don't even want to call it similar. They have a program with a very, very high success rate, but they only deal with first-time pregnant moms. So we see the most instances of infant mortality on that second and that third and that fourth child. So when you have your first child, everybody wants to watch your child. Oh, I'll help you, I'll help you. Yeah. Then you got 2 and 3, like, you can't bring all them babies over here. And so then your support network decreases. And that web you had kind of starts to go away. And then it gets harder to lug all the kids onto the car, or the bus, or whatever form of transportation to go to a doctor's appointment. And so things kind of slow down.
Right.
And so, whereas the Nurse Family Partnership Program cherry picks the moms that they pull into their program to produce a high output is great. But what about the rest of the moms who are slipping through the cracks?
Right.
And so I don't think, and Kelly may disagree, that there's another program like ours that I've seen anywhere, but I can guarantee you it's not in Indiana.
Okay.
No, I'm going to have to agree with that.
What I do see, how do we define success? Is it how long they breastfeed, how many moms stop smoking, and these things? But we look at it, we've had over 150 babies come through the program, and we've not had one loss.
Oh, wow.
So if you look at that rate, we are defying the odds at the moment.
Absolutely.
And my staff hates it. I say we have to prepare for the worst, but expect the best. And we've done very well. And we don't get the opportunity to cherry pick who comes into the program. We'll get a referral and say, yeah, she's got 3 kids in DCS. She's having domestic violence issues at home. She tested positive for marijuana. She hasn't had any prenatal care. She shows up to the emergency room in labor. Like that's a That's like, if most people are like, I'm not taking that one, that's too high
Right.
risk.
Yeah.
Those are the ones we say, okay, we can fix this one, and so to have them taken those and not experiencing loss is just amazing.
Question. When you guys say that someone must be referred to you all, who does the referring? Like, do they go, are you guys in partnership with like somebody else in the community, or you guys are just
We're in partnership with everybody we can be. Whether if we're at Walmart and we see a pregnant woman, I urge them to approach them and say, hey,
wow.
let's talk. We are connected with the hospital. Say, hey, if you get pregnant women that you think would be a fit for our program, refer them to us. So we do get those referrals, but a lot of our referrals are word of mouth. Like, hey, there's this great program over here, you should do this. Or, it even got to the point where we're having repeat moms come to the program.
Oh, wow.
Well, for one, that's probably not good because the pregnancy spacing is not there, but they know where to come for the help that they need. Because if they didn't have a great experience, they wouldn't come back.
Right.
We'd even, to talk about the experience, our newest staff member was a participant. She believed so much in what happened for her experience, she wanted to be a doula.
Awesome.
And so that just helps increase and multiply that workforce.
Yeah.
So how long? So now I'm just thinking, if I was a new mom, I wouldn't want to let go of my doula, but I'm guessing that relationship must end. It must end eventually. So what point? Like, how does that process happen?
When do you know the relationship is over?
So for our program, moms graduate when their babies turn 1 year. So at that birthday, that happy first birthday, that is when moms graduate from the program and we give them their farewell. However, it's with notice and lots of reminders that we're always around as far as referrals, if you need any other information. If you need to know anything about the community, we're available. We don't shut down the communication and say she can never stop by the office again and anything like that. As a matter of fact, we get birthday cards. We get invited to baby showers. There's a lot that goes on, and obviously that relationship, it does change, but we just want to make sure that the community knows that we're not just here for your birth and then, it's all over with. That year is very important, and we want to make sure that moms don't necessarily depend on us, but that they get information and they're able to stand on their own 2 feet and advocate for themselves. So at that year, mom is confident, mom has the information that she needs, and she knows that she's got a resource and a friend available when she needs.
Awesome. I'm wondering if there's anyone out there trying to replicate your program, or if anyone's reached out, because this just sounds amazing, and like you're seeing some amazing results. So I don't know if you are attending conferences, like a national conference of some sort, and kind of sharing what you guys are doing.
Yes, absolutely. We've had multiple inquiries about our program and how to replicate it and what it meant to start it. So we've actually had a request from Donor International, our training organization, to come in and actually train about what we do and how we do it and what it looks like from the community level. And then we've also had other people from around the state inquire about how we started and what it looks like and kind of what success looks like on our end. So yes, there are people who are interested in replicating it.
And I think that's our goal as a not just a mission as an agency, but the goal as an agency too is how do we package this to replicate to other communities? Like what would be our role in that? Would we say, well, we can certify you to have a doula program that'll cost you $150,000? What does that look like? Or do you hire your staff, we train them, and you follow this model, we come in quarterly to make sure you follow the guidelines? Because I believe that in order for the sustainability of the program we currently have, we always know that government funding will dry up.
Right. But
how do we sustain this? Because it is so positive and it has showed the success. How do we sustain this over the long time, over the long term, and push it out to other areas? Because I believe that not only should we replicate it in Indiana, but I believe we should position ourselves to push it out to other states that are having the same issue.
Do either of you know how much the program has grown since its inception? Like, how many mothers did you start off with, and then has it grown significantly since that time?
Was Brianna the first mom?
Bethany was the first mom.
I think we cherry picked 2 or 3 people we knew that were pregnant, And
Yes.
So, right, you need to come here. We got this program. We got funding. You need to start it. We need to. You're our guinea pigs, and we're gonna make all our mistakes on these first three, and then because we had already had personal relationships with these women, and I tell you, there is not a day goes by that maybe 2 or 3 referrals don't come into the office, or a mom calls and say, hey, I heard about this doula program, or a fax comes in with a referral on it, or an email, hey, blah, blah. So it is growing, and I mean, we've had moms with triplets, we've had moms with twins, and isn't that a surprise to the doula?
Okay, so when you have moms with multiples, do you guys assign more than one doula, like have a doula team assigned to moms, or just like one doula?
I don't think you tagged me in for the next one.
Actually, she does get
It's your baby
we
now.
are all ready to back her up. So in cases like that, you definitely have to have someone else on call as well.
Okay.
But each doula, when she's with her mom in a labor, what happens is that obviously you don't know how long labor is going to be. So there's always someone on hand to back her up and come in if it gets too long, or if there's any issues that come up. But then also they're in contact with me during the birth, and so we communicate via text or phone, if there's a break and there's time or mom is asleep, so that we can communicate about what's going on so she can get help if she has questions or anything like that. And it's just kind of another touch point to make sure that everything is going well and all questions are answered. And in the case of triplets, if there was an issue, then I would come in and step in and kind of work with that doula and that mom as well. But so far, our doulas have done such a wonderful job. It hasn't been necessary yet.
That's good. Yeah.
So it looks like we have a question from one of our viewers. The question is there a minimum age required to be in the program?
On or off the record? No.
I guess we'll say on the record.
Go ahead, Kelly.
Okay, so on the record, 15, because we know that we do have minors that do get pregnant, and with their parents' permission, their guardians' permission, they're able to join the program, and obviously they're going to have that guardian with them, and we're going to make sure that they're covered in that way, all the way up to age 35.
Okay.
But I will say that we have cheated either side of that age.
Okay.
Yes,
Because
yes, we have.
at the end of the day, the high-risk pregnancies are the ones we want to go to this program. So we've seen younger than 15. We've definitely seen older than 35. But our core number is that 15 to 35.
No, awesome. What other sort of requirements are there to be? So I know that it's to be I believe, racial or ethnic minority. So then we know the age group is 15 to 35. Is there any other requirements?
We do not want to deter anyone from the program. We don't ask for any ID.
Okay.
We don't care about insurance because we're not billing them, so we don't care.
Right.
We don't want, many of the programs and reasons for people not wanting to be a participant is people want too much information. They feel that way. So we don't want anyone to feel like, oh man, they just keep asking for paperwork after paperwork after paperwork. And we don't do that. The name they give us is the name we call them. We don't ask those questions. We don't ask for any ID.
Okay.
It just is what it is.
Okay.
And that starts that trust factor, so that, because at the end of the day, we want to be able to peel back that onion to find out bigger issues. If we're arguing about your insurance paperwork and birth certificates, that's already too much, that we don't want to deal with. So.
Okay. It looks like I have another question here. Are there any specific populations who you guys have noticed that use doulas more, like certain, maybe possibly minority groups, interested in doula services more than others, just out of curiosity? Or is it just whoever's in most need is contacting you all?
Well, truly, we have marketed and reached out, but more as far as the grant is concerned to the African American and Latino community. But everyone who's heard about it has been interested and has wanted to have some sort of participation in it. So really across the board, we've seen a lot of interest and a lot of questions, and people really want to know more about it. So I really can't say that it's been higher in one community or another.
I will say, though, interestingly enough, that one of the aspects of service we provide is the pack and plays for safe sleep, as well as baby boxes.
Okay.
And I'm not familiar if you're familiar with baby boxes, but it's a cardboard box that has a mattress that is used as a safe sleep environment. And that curriculum is available online,
Okay.
and they print off a certificate to bring it in. And I'm amazed by the number of non-minority women who are coming in to get these baby boxes. And I hate to judge based on appearance and the vehicle you drive and things like that. But that little $30 bag that they get, they can probably go get that. And so it's amazing that the demographic that's coming to get the baby boxes as opposed to what we push out.
Right.
So we don't turn down anyone. Specifically in some of our more rural counties, we look at the risk of pregnancy, the risk factors as more than the racial and ethnic factors. If you look at somewhere like Stark County, it's 99.7% Caucasian. So, but they could face other risk factors, previous miscarriages and things like that. So we are willing to bring any woman into the program as long as we don't change our focus and our mission.
Okay. Right. I have another viewer's question. What are the qualifications needed to be certified as a doula?
The qualifications necessary to be certified through DONA are participation in their classes. So you don't have to necessarily come preloaded with anything at all, just to care for women and to care for birth. You have to be able to partake in the trainings, meaning that 4-day seminar, and be able to ingest all the information and read the books that are necessary and participate in the births and record them. Those are really the only qualifications, just to be able to be teachable, coachable, trainable, and follow through with the curriculum.
And just off of that, you can see how that rapport can be built so quickly. You're not somebody's coming to your house with a bunch of initials after their name and with their textbook experience saying, well, you really shouldn't be doing this. Research says you're getting someone whose experience is just like yours, that just has been trained to talk about it, and address something they may have already had happen in their life. And so that automatically builds their rapport. Now, we're fortunate at our organization that we don't require a degree, but everybody who has applied, the majority of them, have a degree. So not only are we getting that classic education on top of this DONA and this doula training, and so they're getting the best of both worlds as being able to serve the community.
Awesome. Do the mothers who go through the program try to donate back in any way? So I know that you had mentioned that one mother became a doula. Just wondering, have they ever reached out and said, how can I kind of give back to the program?
Absolutely. We've had multiple moms call in and say, hey, I've got these clothes she grew out of and I want another mom to have them. We had one mom donate household items. Instead of having a garage sale and making money, she wanted us to have the things out of her kitchen, really nice appliances and just different things that she wanted to give. Like she had a little blender, just lots of different things. Like, I'm thinking about another mom, or I've got these books and clothes. We've had multiple moms do that. So they're really interested in kind of paying it forward.
Wow. Yeah. Lots of great information here. Is it possible, so I have another question. Sorry if I keep looking at my phone. I'm getting questions texted to me. Are there plans to expand the program to include the ages? So I know that you said you don't try to turn anyone away, but officially on the books, are there plans to try to expand the qualifications to go through the program?
Is it okay if I say yes 200 times?
So, if I'm understanding the question, Greg, do we want to make it more restrictive?
No, expand.
No,
expand. No.
Yeah.
We want to go where the data says we need to be. So if the data says that babies are dying to moms 77 to 92, then we need to serve moms 77 to 92. Where we see these infant deaths is where we want to make sure that we're fitting and meeting the need. So this last round of data where we based this program on initially was 15 to 35. If it changes to 20 to 60, then we'll do 20 to 60. So we just want to make sure we're meeting the need.
Okay. Another viewer question. If we want to donate, what can I donate and what items are needed? And then I guess also, how can they donate?
You want to take that? I'm going to say money. I'll just say that because that's my role. Money is able to answer many things. And There is opportunities on our website to donate at cwpartners.org.
Okay.
We do have an annual event coming up October 5th, where it's our only fundraiser of the year. And the information is there on the website also. And Kelly, I'm sure you will, the other needs, but yeah, mine is money.
Money. And what was the website one more time?
It's CW Partners, so for Community Wellness Partners, cwpartners.org.
Okay.
And as far as material things, we need things that moms and babies need. So
Okay.
diapers are always a huge need. Brand new car seats are always a huge need. Things that are going to make life easier for parents and babies and safer are all the things that can be donated. So definitely looking into those socioeconomic factors. We get calls from the hospital that say this mom can't go home because she has no car seat, and you know, she's stuck until something happens. So a brand new car seat is sometimes making the difference between a mom going home with her baby or being in just another stressful situation. So definitely things of that nature are needed.
Thank you for that.
And everything else can be gently used, but we just want to make sure that the car seats are new.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We don't know the history of that car seat,
Okay.
whether it's been an accident, if it's got a recall on it. So we never know the history of where that car seat has been or what it's been through. So we want to make sure for liability reasons, for the safety of the baby, that it's a new car seat.
Well, I think we're starting to come to the end of our show. Was there anything else, Karl, Kelly?
Yeah, Kelly, was there anything else you wanted to add that you feel that the world needs to know about doulas?
I think it's important to note that one thing that's going to help not just our program but mothers in general is the awareness. A lot of people are surprised and shocked to hear the data that, you know, African American babies are dying almost 3 times more than every other baby. People don't know that. And spreading that awareness helps. And then spreading the awareness of what can be done, how to contact us regarding this program. I think that's one of the biggest things I want to leave everyone with, is that there is help and it's available, and staying culturally relevant is really important to us. So spreading this knowledge to the community, you know, statewide is really important to us.
And I think for me, in closing, that it's very hard to change learned behaviors and cultural education. So when you look at, when your grandmother says, well, you slept on your stomach, it's okay. You know, we look at stores selling bumper pads for the crib and pretty blankets and little stuffed animals and pillows. Yeah, the baby doesn't need all that. The crib should be completely empty. And so they talk about the ABCs of safe sleep. It's alone, on their back, in a crib. You know, those 3 things. You don't need the bumper pads. No baby has ever died because they hit their head on the wood at the side of a crib. They have died though by moving over and getting stuck inside the bumper pads and suffocating. So, and I just cringe now that I know more, that when I go to stores and I see, you know, these crib kits for sale, I'm like, man, you're selling death traps. And how can we address, like, you know, a Walmart say, hey, you shouldn't sell these, because they're not interested in that, you know. So how do you attack that? And you have to attack it from the community education side and let them know that, hey, this is not a safe sleep environment. I slept several nights on the couch with my son, and I thought it was okay.
Right.
I mean, though he came out the size of a toddler, he still was not a toddler. You know, he was, you know, I remember, man, he's not sleeping. I want to stay here while he sips his bottle and play Xbox, and we both gonna fall asleep. That's not safe.
Right.
You know, they show these pictures on Facebook, like, this is a good dad, look at the baby sleeping on his chest and the dad's asleep. When the picture is cool, that's still not a safe sleep environment. That baby, you could turn to your side, the baby goes on the side of the couch, and you lay on top of him, and then tragedy happens. So it's so important to stress that education, and in non-traditional places, you know, everyone doesn't go to the doctor, but everybody goes to the grocery store, to the barber shop, to churches and things like that. So getting that education into places where people go, and on a multi-tiered effort to kind of just get it, you know, seatbelt laws, you know. You saw that everywhere. You see billboards, click the ticket. You see all of these things. So it kind of just sticks in your brain. I need to put my seatbelt on. Same thing needs to go with safe sleep. You know, there's a baby, he needs to be on his back. And, you know, even Like you watch TV shows and movies, and they're now on their back. I'm like, man, we need to start, showing the correct way so people can begin to follow that.
Yes.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. That's great advice.
Well, I think that's all that we have for you guys today. I want to thank Karl and Kelly for joining us, and everybody that tuned in. Thank you so much. Everybody have a good evening. This was IMHC's Real Talk Radio. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.